All right, guys, in this video, we're going to talk about something very basic. I have a lot of friends who know that I'm in real estate and they know that I real estate invest in real estate and have rental properties and I fix and flip them. But some of even my good friends, they say, Dave, I don't quite understand wholesaling. What is it and how does it work? Well, for those who don't know, I wrote a book on it. It's called The Ultimate Guide to Wholesaling Real Estate. It's a big book and it explains all of the steps in which you would need to take to wholesale real estate. However, in this short, quick video, today we are going to explain what is wholesaling and how it works. Let's jump right in. So, wholesaling real estate is nothing more than going out and finding a property at a great price, sending the seller a contract, or maybe you bring it with you, to purchase that property. Okay? You get that contract signed. Now you have a property under contract. Next, what you do is you take that contract and you market that contract to purchase that property to all of the local cash buyers in your area. Now, you may have a list of cash buyers, or you may just go to Craigslist, Facebook groups, Facebook Marketplace, so on and so forth to market that deal. And what you do is you find somebody who's willing to buy that deal at or above the price that you had agreed to buy it at. So essentially, what we are doing is we are selling paperwork. We're not really selling houses. We're going out and we're getting a house under contract to purchase. And typically that contract has a lot of CYA clauses, which just mean cover your ass. It gives you the ability to exit the deal if you're not able to find a partner or the numbers don't make sense. But we get that property under contract. We then take it to our cash buyers, which could be in various different places. But we do our best to market to as many cash buyers for every deal as we possibly can, so we can A, sell it fast, and B, maybe even get multiple offers to make more money. But essentially, we take that contract, we sell it to a cash buyer, and we do one of two things. We either get out of the way and assign that contract to them, and they step into our shoes and fulfill the original agreement, and we get paid at closing. Or the other option is we do what's called a double close, and we will essentially line up our purchase from the seller and our sale with our buyer on the exact same day. And we'll use our buyer's funds to actually purchase the property, and we make the difference. Now, there's pros and cons to each of these, and you can learn more about them in my free wholesale course, all about wholesaling, that's located at freewholesalecourse.com. But I want to keep this video short. I want to keep it sweet, and I want to keep it simple. So when it comes to wholesaling, the name of the game is locating motivated sellers. That's it. Very simple. Locate those motivated sellers, get out there, and offer to trade them convenience in their life by helping them sell that property. And in exchange, you have to demand a discount. So that's all I do as a wholesaler. I market to motivated sellers. I find those who are really motivated and have a problem. I do everything in my power to help them solve that problem. Okay? And in exchange for my high level of convenience, I'm going to demand a discount. So when you wholesale, you are essentially buying great and you are selling good, and you're making that spread. So does it require money to wholesale a property? No. Does it require money to get a deal? Well, yes and no. It depends. You can either spend time locating these motivated sellers, or you can spend money to market your message out to them so they can call you. And we do both, right? But marketing to motivated sellers is the name of the game when it comes to wholesaling. So you give somebody a contract to purchase their property, you find a buyer that wants to buy it, and you simply sell them the contract to purchase. You're flipping paper, not houses. And that, my friends, is what wholesaling real estate is. It is so incredibly simple. Now, not necessarily easy, but it is simple. If you want to learn more about wholesaling, check out freewholesalecourse.com. In today's video, we're going to talk about what is wholesaling. We're going to talk about how it works and what you need to do to learn how to wholesale real estate for yourself. Now, in this video, it is actually me being interviewed on one of my local mastermind groups. Now, I'm in several mastermind groups. Some of these groups are big national groups that maybe meet quarterly or even annually. Others are local, right? So I'm in a local mastermind. And in this group, in this video, my good buddy, Jim, at our Three Doors local mastermind here in St. Louis, interviews me and I explain what wholesaling is, how it works, how we're able to do so many deals, and what you can do to do the same thing. Now, from recording this, it's probably been about a week and a half to 2 weeks, and I've gotten a lot of feedback, and that's why I'm sharing it with you guys today. And most of the feedback was about the mindset. It wasn't even about wholesaling or how we're doing it or what we're doing, but it was about the mindset. So I want you guys to take this video in and understand what wholesaling is, how it works, and really big picture what is happening behind the scenes. I hope you guys get a ton of value from this video. I know you will. I did. And thank you for watching. Let's do it.
If you don't have any money or anything to bring to the table, then ask them what you can do.
I have investments and assets that pay me enough money that it covers all of my expenses.
Network, network, network.
Okay, so we have Dave Dodge here. So Dave, you have been investing now for, is it right around 5 years? Is that right?
So full time, it's been 5 years. I've been investing in real estate for about 15, going on 16 years, but I've been doing it full time for 5.
Okay, so full time for 5, and you've been hovering the last couple of years around 100 deals, I think, of which how many are flips, how many are wholesales? How's that work?
So we're buying 100 houses a year. I think we did 98 in 18 and 92 and 19. We're on pace this year to probably do 80 or 90 as well. So not quite 100, but we're right up there. Typically we are buying and doing all of our marketing for our own portfolio, meaning we're looking for our own deals to buy and add as rental properties. Can you hear me all right?
I can hear you great, yeah.
Or we're buying to flip, right? So we have kind of an internal motto here, and I have 2 partners, Mike Slane and Bill Merritt, and our motto is keep the best, sell the rest. So what ends up happening is we do a lot of marketing to generate leads, and the leads and the marketing that we do, we market in areas that we really want to buy. So some of the types of marketing that I'm doing right now is radio advertising, which doesn't really fit in what I'm talking about because it's just broadcasted everywhere. So we do a lot of, or a little bit, I should say, of just general marketing. But then from there, we do direct mail, cold calling, and cold texting. But we focus those types of campaigns in areas that we want to buy and own property. So again, we're buying the best, we're selling the rest. Now, sometimes we'll stumble across a lead from that marketing that's not in an area that we may buy in wholesale. And then, of course, the leads that come in from the radio are just kind of everywhere. So we do a lot of marketing, but most of it, for the most part, most of it is specific to where we want to do our investing. When those leads come in, again, we buy the best and we sell the rest. So typically, in a perfect world, it'd be about 33, a third. But it kind of swings from time to time, depending on how many projects we have going, or if we're on a buying spree for our own rental portfolio or need a couple rehabs. But in a perfect world, we try to basically buy 2 of the 3 that come in and either flip ourselves or add to our portfolio. And then a 33% roughly share of, the leads that come in, we end up wholesaling off. So that's kind of what we do in terms of, what we do with the leads that come in, let's say.
So this is fascinating, guys, because let's dive into this one little saying here and let's expand up on it a little bit. So buy the best. So as far as just the buy the best part of it, so So when you have your criteria, and Dave Dodge, Jim Manning,
Jim, you got any headphones, buddy?
is the audio not that good? Let me stand.
Yeah, it's just echoing real bad,
Um,
but it's all good. No big deal.
so again, this is the first time I've used this room to record. Thanks in advance for the audio.
No worries. You're
It
good.
was good. I was telling everybody I had this nice mic and I forgot the cord, so my
No
work.
worries.
So thanks in advance for the echoing of the audio. I'll fix that for next time.
You're good.
So buy the best. So let's break this down really quick, because I'm going to make an argument or a point that Dave Dodge, what's best for him, and Jim Manning was best for me, and Ryan Wessels, Bob DeClue, any of the other investors that are seasoned. We identify when we're seasoned, we've identified exactly what the best is to us. And Dave might be what's best to him might be actually a little bit different than what's best for another seasoned investor, because it's exactly the exact buy box, the exact buying criteria. So it doesn't necessarily mean just because Dave wants to wholesale a deal that it's not necessarily the best deal for you. It's exactly what you're looking for. It might not just be exactly what's best for Dodge. So what is the best for you specifically, Dave?
So that's a great question, because it varies too from time to time. So, best has a lot of meanings to me, right? So best could mean, hey, this is a really, really good deal for me to rehab and retail and make a profit on. It could mean, hey, this is a deal that I'm going to be able to burr and add to my rental portfolio with little to no money, invested in the end, or sometimes even be able to walk and have a lot of equity in that property. Or best could be, hey, instead of, trying to make 30 or 35 grand on a flip, we can make 15 and we can get paid in a week. So, all of these are great problems to have. And best really just determines on, hey, how's the cash flow looking right now? What upcoming expenses do we have? How many projects are already in the queue for the rental portfolio? We in order for us to do what we do with rentals, we rehab every one of them. And we use the burst strategy, and we get loans based on the appraisal. So we leave little to no money in them. But the coolest part about it is we get a house basically for free, and it's rehabbed and rented. Getting a free house is one thing, but getting one that's producing and it doesn't need a ton of updates, within the immediate future because we did them already, that's the coolest part. So best doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to make a great rehab or a great rental or a great wholesale. Best to me means, hey, what's best for my business right now? So when I say keep the best, sell the rest, we may sell off a crazy good deal, but it's best for my business to maybe make that 15 or 20 grand today to help pay some bills next week, then have 40 or 50 grand in equity in a rental that I may not see that cash for, 5 to 10 years. So it kind of varies. So it's not necessarily best in terms of the property itself. I'm really glad that you asked this question. It's really, hey, what is the best for my business right now, right? So as a real estate investor, we're in the marketing business more so than we are in the real estate business. And some people may disagree with me on that, but the more deals that you start doing, the more you'll start to understand that. And that was the biggest epiphany that I learned when I first started, and I struggled for about 3.5 months to do a deal. I hired a coach, and he said, David, you're not in the real estate business, even though you think you are a real estate investor. You're in the marketing business. And like 2 weeks later, I started doing deals, right? I was like, all right, screw it. You're right. I could drive around and look at houses all day, but unless I'm making offers, I'm not going to buy any of them, right? So how do you make offers? Well, you get people that are motivated to either call you or you call them, and you start making offers. That's it. That's the whole name of the game. So wholesaling to me is a means to an end, right? It is a job. And I like to automate things in my life. I like to leverage other people. I like to leverage systems. So, wholesaling definitely isn't something that I wake up every morning and I say, let's go wholesale a deal. Instead, I wake up every morning and I say, hey, let's do some marketing. Let's generate some leads. And if we get a deal that makes a great wholesale, boom, we're going to wholesale it. But if it also makes a good rental, or if it makes a great flip, then that's really where the marketing becomes more of investing, right? So you become an investor, in my opinion, when you start taking risk, but you can eliminate a lot of risk by wholesaling, right? So a lot of little things that are in there, but to me, wholesaling is a job. It's a means to an end. My passion is rental properties and passive income. That's really, really what I like to do. We have a lot of fun fix and doing rehabs and retailing, fix and flips. And Bill, my partner Bill, he basically kind of handles that branch of the business. But I like doing it too. I tag along a lot on appointments and just help. I have a couple students right now that I'm partnering with. I joint venture with people to do flips, and a lot of it's just kind of building their confidence. It's like, once you do this 10 times, it's not any different than doing it 2,000 times. Yeah, you may learn a couple more things, but really at the end of the day, it's just math, right? You got to remove the emotion from real estate and just look at the numbers and look at your best case, look at your worst case, and be prepared for both. Right. So
Yes.
a lot of it is just confidence. And in fact, somebody messaged me on social media yesterday. I can't remember what platform. And they said, what was the biggest hurdle for you in the beginning? And I thought about it and I was like, man, this is just no brainer. Like, why am I contemplating on this? And that biggest hurdle was spending money on marketing. That was what the hardest thing for me to do in the beginning was to just say, okay, this isn't an expense. It's an investment. And I need to go spend $1,000 or $2,000 or $3,000 on marketing. I think my very first campaign, Jim, I spent $1,400 or $1,600. I was $62,000 in credit card debt, and I hired a coach too. So I spent like $4,000 or $5,000 on the coach. I spent $1,600 on the marketing campaign, which was basically just vacants in St. Louis. This is 5 years ago, and I sent a bunch of postcards out. And, the way I looked at it is going from 62 grand to, 67, 68,000 in debt doesn't even really affect me that much. Like I'm in a bunch of debt. This sucks in this situation. So let's do something to make it better. Like let's make an investment. And that was the biggest hurdle. The first 3.5 months that I tried, I was just cold calling people, just me by myself. Right. And I was only doing it for an hour or two a day, which, that's fine. That'll get you a deal in 2 months. But unless you want to get a deal from cold calling, you need to either have a dialer, which I didn't have, or you need to be putting in, 4 or 5 hours a day doing it. The flip side of that is you can pay for marketing to get your message in front of other people so they call you. And, as you get better at this business and you start doing deals, you need to make sure that you are allocating money to your marketing budget because it makes it easier. I mean, think about it. If you have to call, 3,000 people to get, 10 leads to do one deal versus spend $1,500 to get 10 leads to come in to do one deal, you're answering a phone 10 times versus dialing out 3,000. I mean, I'm all about efficiency, right? So you have to spend money to generate those leads, but it's not a cost. It is an investment. And at this point, we've scaled back. We used to spend 12 to 15 grand a month for about 18 months to 2 years straight. I think we've scaled back over the last 4 or 5 months to probably more along the lines of 6,000 to 8,000 a month, but that also includes 2 full-time virtual assistants that I pay $5 and $8 an hour to. And they help a ton with a lot of those efforts, answering the phones. One of them does cold calling, about 50% of the time. The other works the texting platform that we have. And we just kind of so we're always doing marketing. We're always doing outbound texting, outbound cold calling, and then of course the radio, but occasionally we'll do mail campaigns too. So we're always doing marketing, but again, wholesaling it is a job. I've automated it as much as I possibly can at this point and have, people in roles like acquisitions and dispositions and so on and so forth to kind of let me work more on the business than in the business, but I still work in the business because I enjoy it, oddly enough. So like this morning, I went on an appointment down in South County, looked at a property, got pictures, and then I just send those over to my team. And then from there, they're gonna basically do the analysis and make the offer. And if we get it accepted, that's when I'll turn around and look at it again at this point. So I love systems, I love leverage, and it allows us to do more deals. So like the other day when you were on the call and you were saying that Kenton, I'm gonna call Kenton now, but it's in a good way, buddy. Hope you're listening. Had done 50 deals. I'm like, well, shit, man, he's doing 3 times as many deals as I am. Right. But not necessarily because, I've leveraged a team around me. So it just kind of depends on what you're wanting to do. I personally don't do that many deals, although I am the one signing on the dotted line to be the buyer or the seller, and I'm coordinated. I'm kind of like the quarterback at this point. And it allows me to have more time I'm not focused on all that little
Okay,
stuff all the time.
So you're going over a tremendous amount of stuff. Let me slow you down
That's fine. Go ahead.
a little bit. Okay, so there's a lot that he said here, guys. So let's slow it down just a little bit. So when you say I
I
still,
got a lot of coffee in me today.
are you systematized to the point where you're really just going out on the appointment and that's the piece that you like and negotiating?
So not even, I mean, really, like what I like to do is I like to go on appointments, but for one of two reasons. One, because I truly believe in, being a leader, not a boss. So if somebody on my team can't make it, I'm there. Call me, boom, I'm going to go on that appointment, right? So I always want to help any way that I can, right? Number two, I do enjoy it. Now, with that being said, I'm not like, hey, go line Dave up with like 10 appointments this week, right? But if you need me to fill in for 2 or 3 here randomly, boom, I'm down. I enjoy doing it. But again, I enjoy doing a couple, right? I'm not trying to line up 5 a day every single day. Now, one of my main acquisition guy, Travis Wakefield, incredible guy. I love Travis. He lives in Farmington, guys. He lives an hour, I don't even know, is it an hour and a half? Hour and 10 minutes south. He only comes up maybe once a week. He hasn't even come up in like the last 2 or 3 weeks because he hasn't really needed to. So, he works those phones along with my virtual assistant, generates those leads. And if he needs somebody to run out and take pictures, it's like, dude, don't drive an hour up. Like I'm, 20 minutes away from most properties here. Like I'll just run over, get pictures, and it gets me out of the house. I get to talk to people and so on and so forth.
Walk me through your sales process. So is Travis doing most of the sales virtually then, or is he going
yeah, I mean, so we use Podio for our CRM and REI Black Book for dispositions. And in Podio, we've built it out and spent I'm gonna sneeze, excuse me guys. Spent a lot of time and money building it out. So it generates offer contracts with about 10 or 12 clicks. So we can generate an offer in about 30 seconds and have it emailed to a seller with right signature. It's not even signed by us. It's actually just a signature like font. And we close deals with this contract every day, right? So like, don't tell my title company, but like, I don't even sign the purchase agreement. It's ink from a printer, right? So they send it out on my behalf. I'm CC'd, so I see what's going on, and I do it too. It's not just them. But then, if the title company does require the signature, I'll just sign next to the ink.
So you generate the lead, okay, and then Travis gets on the phone and talks to him. Clicks the button, creates Podio.
Yeah, Travis, one of the 2 virtual assistants, myself, Mike, maybe Bill, if it's a good rehab opportunity, or Laura even too. Laura's my disposition girl, and she's great as well.
Okay, so like,
does work some leads from time to time.
So you negotiate the deal completely virtually on the phone, and then
Say that again.
Do you send the offer before you go out to the property, or do you?
It depends. I mean, typically we don't want to waste a bunch of time, so we'll just give them a spread. We'll just say, listen, we're investors. We don't pay retail. We have 3 points of value here, as is, cash, and quick. That's it. I mean, that's all we are doing. We are, as investors, we are providing liquidity to the marketplace, especially wholesalers, right? Like, let's look at the big picture. What does a wholesaler do? Well, he provides liquidity to a marketplace that doesn't typically have very good liquidity, right? How long does it take, Jim? Let's have a conversation for a second. How long does it take to sell a house typically after you rehab it? Like to get paid?
Yeah, I mean, it can very well take, I mean, let's say best case scenario, it sells on the market day 1. It can still take 30, 45 days, but it's
okay. Perfect. And if it takes 30 to 45 days to sell, to close, it's another 30, 45 days, right? So again, there's no right or wrong answer here. It takes a lot of time, right?
Yeah, and that's
wholesalers come along and they say, hey, we'll buy your house in 2 weeks. And we do. We've closed on houses in 4 days before, right? But if we're going to offer a level of convenience, we got to get a discount, right? That's the name of my brand, Discount Property Investor. I've got to give Mike Sling credit. He coined it. I think it's incredible because that's what we do. And I tell this to sellers all the time. I'm overly transparent. I say, hi, I'm David Dodge. I don't pay retail, but I would love to buy your house. If you need a level of convenience that is ultra high, guess what? I have it, as well as cash, and I'll buy it as is, and we'll do it quick. That's the convenience that I offer. But I'm not going to offer that to you just because I'm just such a nice person, right? I need to get a discount. This has to be the win-win scenario. So that's it. We offer to buy properties at a discount, and in return, we give them a level of convenience that is unmatched. They're not going to be able to get that via an agent or elsewhere. And that is the pitch, right? If they say, oh, I'm not looking to sell at a discount, goodbye, right? Virtual assistant, put them on a follow-up drip. Call them every 2 or 3 months or even every year. I don't want to talk to that person again until they need my level of convenience, right? So you have to understand a couple simple things. You are in the liquidity business and you are trading convenience for a discount. That's the highest level that you can get, right? Now, you do that by solving their problem, and you have to make it a win-win scenario. And at the end of the day, it is a job though, right? It's wholesaling. So, take the wholesaling hat off and put the investor hat on by cherry picking the best ones. And again, best is relative to your own business and metrics within, what your goals are and how you plan to reach those goals, right? So it's not just like best, like it's a good location or a good rental. Like best is what are your needs now and what are your goals, and let's work out the strategy to get there, right? So yeah, we're in the liquidity business. We're in the marketing business ultimately. And we trade convenience for a discount. And it's really that simple, right? People get ahead of themselves a lot, especially new students that come on and they say, man, you just know so much about this. And I'm like, you know what? I failed a million times, but at the end of the day, all I really look for is motivation and a problem, right? How can I solve this person's problem? And do they have enough motivation that they need, not want, but need a high level of convenience? If they don't need a high level of convenience, Jim, then they're not going to be willing to sell it to me at a discount. And therefore, I have no interest in wasting my time on that. Now, I'm not saying I won't take the call and be nice and give them advice and maybe even offer to list it, because we do have a brokerage here as well. But that's like not my pitch. Like I don't try to point people towards brokerage listings. I want to buy, I want to build my portfolio. I want to fix and flip, so if that's what the only option for them is, then of course, hey, we'll do it at a discount or we'll hook you up or whatever it is, just so we can get a little bit more revenue. But our model and our business is buying to build a portfolio of rentals. I think as of today, we have 61 or 62. We just sold a couple off. We got another one closing Friday. So we are selling some of them turnkey right now, but it's only because the market is so hot. We're not really trying to downsize our portfolio, but we are doing what some would consider, some rebalancing. We're getting rid of some of the ones that we don't really, want necessarily, buying some new ones. We're also paying off some debt. So it's
okay.
actually going.
So let's circle back real quick. Okay. So lead comes in. Do you have one of your VAs? Are you sending them to a voicemail recording, or is one of your VAs like picking up and?
Yeah, so I have all of the inbound calls from 9 to 6 are answered live. We don't have a call service. We used to have a call service. At this point, we just let them leave a message, or if they call and don't leave a message, they just get called back at 9:01 a.m. the very next morning, and we keep calling them until we reach them. We've had services in the past. Yeah, it may be good to have those services because you can jump on those leads a little quicker. But the way we look at it, is like, we don't like competing with other people necessarily. So it's like, if they're, in that much of a hurry, it's probably going to get bid up anyway. If they can't wait till 9 a.m. the next morning, so what? So move on. So we don't have a call service, and we have one virtual assistant. He's in the Philippines. He does work our time zones essentially. So he works 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. Central Standard Time, Monday through Friday. And all the inbound leads go to him. He's my lead. I guess you'd call him my lead manager.
Okay, so he picks up the phone and he's really just doing the initial screen, trying to find for motivation.
Yeah, his job is very simple. Hey, thanks for calling House Sold Easy. We're a St. Louis home buyer. We'd love to buy your house. What is your name? What's your address? What's a good number to reach you back at? And how'd you get our information? That's basically what we start with, so we can track our metrics. And then last but not least, why are you calling? Tell me about your house. Tell me about your situation. What can we do to help you? By the way, we're investors. We don't pay retail. We just want to make that very, very clear to you. However, It sounds like you may be having a problem, and guess what? We're expert problem solvers. So let's talk about this. And that's it. That's the pitch. It's so incredibly simple. We don't use call scripts. We don't use anything along those lines. We just make a friend. All right. We don't want our conversations on the phone to sound scripted. We don't want them to think that, we're trying to lead them down some path of resistance or whatnot. Right. We are, hey, we are here to help. Maybe we can't help you. Right. Maybe our offer won't work for you, but if you need a high level of convenience, there, AKA you have some motivation, guess what? We helped 98 people last year. I'm pretty sure we can help you too. And that's it. We start with the problem and we just try to work our way backwards to buying a house from it.
Okay, so then he then moving it along, your VP
Yeah, so he'll take down the general information and basically and then once it comes in, so he creates a lead, and then that lead automatically tags my team and myself to review. And then from there, we'll distribute it. So certain people like certain parts of town on my team, like certain people like North County, others like South City, others like West County. So depending on where that lead comes in, somebody will pick or choose to work it, or we'll even assign it to somebody. And then from there, it's their job to call that person back and set an appointment. The original person that's taking the calls, they don't set any appointments. They just keep it simple. They try to make a friend and let them know that, this is a business to us, yes, but at the same time, like we do care. We do want to work with them and see what we can do to help them with their problem. And if there's a level of motivation that's there, then we'll call them back right away, somebody on the team, and set up an appointment or talk further. And if the level of motivation isn't that high, then we may not even call them back right away. We may wait a week or a month, just because it's like, we're not in a big hurry to offer a bunch of convenience to somebody that doesn't want to sell a discount. Again, that's the trade-off, guys. Don't forget that. You are trading convenience for a discount. If somebody isn't willing to provide you a big discount on a property, why would you continue to try to offer them a crazy amount of convenience? Like, this blows my mind when a lot of investors get in the game. And I get it if you're just like chasing deals and wanting to do deals. But a couple of years ago, I decided, hey, I'm going to quit chasing deals, right? Yeah, I'm going to follow up. That's not what I said. I didn't say I'm going to stop following up. I said I'm going to quit chasing deals, right? And my life got a whole hell of a lot easier because I basically just lead with, I'm an investor. I don't pay retail. However, I would love to buy it.
So, hey,
if you want my level of convenience, then you have to give me a discount, or else I'm going to take this level of convenience, which is just money, and I'm going to go find somebody else that does need that level of convenience. And I'm going to make, or, hopefully let them, sell me the deal at a discount, and then a win-win will be created.
So let me add to this, guys. So listen to his mindset on it. You can do that, and you can get to that if you know you're going to get another 10 leads tomorrow. You're going to get another 10 leads the rest of the week, or whatever his lead volume is. If your activity level, it's a numbers game. If your activity level's to where, you're just going to once an hour a week do some cold calls, that's the lead generation strategy that you pick. When you get that lead that comes in, whether they're motivated or not, you're going to chase after it, because you kind of have to at that point, because you've put yourself in a position that you really don't have options, because you haven't done enough lead generation to be able to get into that mindset.
100%. 100%. But that has repercussions too, though, because if you're calling somebody every 3 days and they don't answer for 10 times, so that's 30 days have gone by, called them 10 times, and they finally answer on that 33rd day, that's the 11th phone call, and you put yourself in their shoes. They're like, man, this guy really wants to buy my house. Like, I'm gonna get as much as I possibly can. Well, if I call somebody, let's say every other week, and then maybe a month goes by when we don't, and then we call them, they're like, okay, yeah, I mean, I've been kind of ducking this guy. I've been busy. Let's finally meet. Or if they just call us back, boom, that's where the motivation comes in. So we stop chasing just because it helps eliminate the tire kickers. It helps eliminate the non-motivated people. But the thing about motivation is it comes in waves, not for us on this call, but for our motivated sellers. They may not be motivated today, but they'll be motivated on Tuesday because they had a bad day at work. So you definitely want to have a high amount of engagement I guess engagement is the right word, with your motivated sellers, So there's a difference between not chasing and not following up. And again, I'm not saying don't follow up. We have an amazing follow-up system. We use humans. They call, they text, they email. We don't have a ton of automation. We just do it the old-fashioned way. But we make sure that they know that when they are ready for that level of convenience, we would love to talk numbers with them.
So one of the biggest mistakes I made when I was starting out was I would get that lead, and then if they didn't accept the offer, I'd move on to the next one, and I didn't follow up at all. If you do your follow-up right, industry standards are 70 to 80% of your deals should come from over 30 days of follow-up. What do you know? Do you have your numbers dialed in? Do you know what?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know exactly, but it takes us 4 to 6 months to close a deal from initial contact on average.
And beginning
4 to 6 months, guys. So
Yeah.
we know we're probably doing a little less than we normally do. We usually average 8 to 10. I'd say the last 2-3 months we're probably more like 6 or 8, just because of the situation with the economy and COVID and all that bullshit. But it's 6 or 4 to 6 months for it to close. So that's on average. So that's 5 years worth of data too, right? So do we get a call today sometimes, or on a day, and then have an appointment later that day or the next day, get it under contract that day or the next day, and have it sold the next day? All the time, right? But there's also people that we mailed 4.5 years ago that were finally, their motivation is finally at the level where they're willing to, and you guys are going to get tired of me saying this, but you need to hear it. It's going to get to the point where their level of motivation was high enough that they were willing to trade their property at a discount for my convenience. It's so incredibly simple. So when you average 5 years of data, it's about 4 to 6 months on average to do a deal. And I think that that's going to basically be pretty consistent over the next 5 years too, right? Sometimes they go quick. Sometimes you have to keep following up with these people.
Yeah,
So,
that's one of the hardest things when you're starting out is getting over that hump, realizing that if you're doing everything right, your business and the income you can make really isn't really going to start till months 4 through 6, as you have some of those follow-ups that are coming through, and getting over that hump. Because I mean, only a certain percentage of them, it's 10 to 30%, depending on how you're running your business, are going to be within that first 30 days from the lead. So okay, so let's go back to your sales process, because this is amazing. Just so you know, I just had a chat come in that said this is an awesome call with like 3 exclamation points.
Sweet. I hope you guys are learning something.
So lead comes in, initial. So I call it an inside sales agent, ISA, that takes the initial call. So ISA, you call them lead manager, whatever you want to call it, doesn't matter. Takes the phone call, filters the lead, it creates information on them. You send the lead over to the team, and then the team decides, okay, this is the best lead for the North County investor on your team. Okay.
Yeah, essentially. So basically the ISA, they take the information, they try to build rapport. Like that's kind of the main thing that they do. They just like, they are the first contact with my company. So if these initial calls last 20 or 30 minutes, that's completely fine with me. I want them to know that we are here to help, and that we buy a lot of houses, and that we have rentals. And I want them to try to make a friend, just get as much information as possible. But they also, make themselves very clear that like they are the lead manager, and that they will connect us, or that they will connect that seller, with one of the buyers on the team. But they don't want to waste their time, right? So they want to make sure that we can help them. And then they enter it into Podio, which is a CRM. And then it automatically, when the lead's created via, some automations we have set up, it just tags and notifies everybody on the team. And then that virtual assistant, or ISA, then goes in and runs comps for us, pulls an ARV. They pull like a screenshot of the comps, they pull an AVM, they pull a Zestimate, just basic general data that we can kind of use on the fly to analyze that property. I don't spend a ton of time analyzing properties prior to seeing them. Honestly, I'll look at those simple numbers like a Zestimate, an AVM. PropStream has an estimate as well that we use, Redfin. I mean, we'll pull a couple of those, and we'll just kind of average it, and we'll just start there. And then once that we see that there's a level of motivation, then we'll do a little bit more of a deep dive to determine those ARVs or the values of those properties. But from the hip, it's like, if they're not willing to sell it at 70 to 80 cents on the dollar,
Again, their motivation isn't high enough. They're not willing to trade it for a discount. Therefore, why should I give them a level of
Okay,
convenience?
so VA does the initial comp, and your comp range is, let's say it's 100,000 to 120,000 on what the resale ARV, the after repair value would be. So then, and he assigns it to you, Dave. So then you pick up the phone call and you set an appointment, or you're actually call and then you kind of you go
I
through.
mean, both. I mean, if they're hot and they're motivated, the ISA will set the appointment. I mean, they're obviously trained to do that, and they'll just call me and say, "Hey, Dave, are you available now?" I'll go there, right? Or can you meet Tuesday at 6 or whatever? Like they will set the appointment. But typically, if they're not super motivated and they need to sell it, or it's not on fire as we speak, they'll just tag me in it along with my team. We'll kind of analyze it and we'll say, all right, who would be the best to work with these sellers? Now, you know, we have a very diverse set of people in St. Louis, right? Like we have a Bosnian population. We have, you know, white people, we have African-American people, we have Asian people, we have different type of people. So certain people on my team work better with certain people, right? So like if it's in an area of town that is, you know, highly concentrated with a certain type of person, we may have somebody on the team that works really well with those people. So it wouldn't make sense for me to go there whenever somebody else might be able to do it better, right? So we don't really have territories for our buyers. It's really just like, hey, what's your level of expertise? Who do you work well with? When those type of leads come in, we're going to give them to you, right? So yeah, they generate the lead. We then review. From there, we'll either call the person up just as a second call, just to kind of introduce ourselves, and again, kind of re-engage them, as well as determine that level of motivation. If an appointment needs to be set, we'll set one. Again, if they're not really motivated, I don't want to waste time going there. However, the catch-22 on this is, you know, I said this earlier, levels of motivation with sellers, they change, and they change very rapidly. So it is a good idea to get out and meet these people, build a little bit of a rapport, AKA just make a friend, guys. It's so simple. And then get the pictures, because then in a month or two, or in 4 to 6 on average, like I said, when they do have that bad day or whatever happens and that level of motivation increases to where they're willing to trade at a discount, you guys heard me say that a couple times today, for convenience, then boom, we might already have those pictures. So there's a fine line between, do I go now and get those pictures and try to make a friend, or is it just going to be a complete waste of time, right? So, you know, that's kind of hard to determine, but you know, we can kind of figure it out a little bit by just saying something very simple like this, guys. This is so incredibly simple. Steal it. I hope you do. Use your own name. Hi, I'm Dave. I'm an investor. I buy houses cash, quick, as is, but I don't pay retail, right? So if you are willing to, you know, give me a slight discount, you don't have to say massive, but a slight discount, I can make your life incredibly easy. I'll buy it cash. You have to clean it as is. We'll close quick, relatively, 2, 3, maybe 4 weeks, not 4 months, right? And you don't have to do any cleaning, any painting, any repairs. And if it's filled with shit and trash, keep it. I like those kind of houses. Is it filled up? Great. Oh, when can I see it? I mean, that's it. It's so incredibly simple. Solve problems, make friends. That's it.
So let's talk a little bit more about the appointment or not. And let me kind of start this out with just a quick little story in my career. When I first started out, I had a homeowner lead come in, and I did the normal filtering, the normal questions, and she had mentioned that her spouse had passed away, but like she was stone cold poker face. There wasn't really any emotion in her voice. For whatever reason, it just didn't feel like she was that motivated. And I decided to go on the appointment anyway. So it wasn't one of those, but I decided, well, there could be pain there because of what happened with the spouse, right? So I was like, I'm just going to go anyway. It doesn't seem like she wants that. And then the second I get there, she breaks down into tears and is crying about like the loss of her loved one. And I didn't think ahead of time to even bring an offer. So like I had to then go back to my house, print out an offer, and then bring it back, a second appointment the same day. And you know, we ended up having a great deal. She just needed to be done with the property. So what do you do, Dodge, on kind of those gray area ones, to go on the appointment or not? Like when do you do you have any kind of rules in place, or do you?
I got a couple things to say on that topic. So number one, put a bunch of contracts in your trunk right now, everybody. Don't go back. Just have them with you, right? Just have some basic contracts. If you want to use special sale, that's fine. I hate special sale. It's way too long and people don't want to read through it. I use simple 1 and 2 page contracts. Print off 50 to 100, throw them in your trunk. You never know when you might need them, right? So that's number one. Number two, we talked about this a second ago, Jim. You don't know when their level of motivation is going to peak. On the phone call, it didn't sound like it did, but when you got there, the sentiment kicked in. She missed her husband, poor lady, right? The motivation skyrocketed. So when do we determine when we want to make an appointment? Again, I think it falls back to best for you and your business, right? Is that a part of town that you are willing to go to, get pictures because you hope the level of motivation gets higher sooner than later? Well, yeah, run those appointments. If it's in a place that you don't buy, right, and you don't care, that's not best, right? So when I say keep the best, sell the rest, same with appointments. Good part of town, I'm going to go. I don't care if they're not even that motivated today, because in 6, 8, 10 months, maybe they will be. I'll already have my pictures. Maybe I'll even have a contract that I'll give them that they laugh at. But in 6 or 8 months, all of a sudden that looks like, they need the convenience all of a sudden, right? So a couple things there, and I don't want to get off on too many topics, but A, put contracts in your car. B, best for you and your business, right? If the level of motivation is high, doesn't really matter where they're at, go. If it's not that high, well, then start looking at the market, start looking at what you're looking for, and start looking at, do you like that part of town? Is it going to be worth your time? Or are you willing to waste time on an appointment in Kirkwood? I would be, yes, versus, Castle Point. Like, I'm buying a Castle Point. If you guys got anything up there, I'm only going to give you $200 to maybe $1,500 bucks, but the cash is green, right? I'm not going to go look at those houses. Probably even if I buy them, I'm just going to, look on the map or maybe send someone up to drive by. But if it's in Kirkwood and I live in Des Peres, so it's like a 3-minute ride for me, I'm going to go, right? Just because it's right in my wheelhouse of what I'm looking for, right? So best isn't necessarily defined by highest and best of the property itself. It's more about your goals and your business, right? A lot of people have these big goals, but they have no plan, which really just means they have a lot of dreams. So, what are your goals? Well, mine are very simple, wholesale, because it's a means to an end and I enjoy it, right? And I'm going to buy the best and I'm going to sell the rest. And my passion is building a huge portfolio of rentals. So my goal is build portfolio of rentals via wholesale marketing. And we'll do a couple flips in there as well, because they're fun, right? But I know every day when I wake up that wholesaling is a job, right? So the faster that I can build my portfolio of rentals, the better. And how better way to do it than generating my own leads direct to the seller. And we keep the best. And again, best is, I don't know the right way to phrase this, but it's relative to you.
So,
You
so
only, right?
let me add to this. Can I add to this really quick? So,
Please.
So there's Ryan and I a few months ago got into like a little bit of like a
You guys put the gloves on?
discussion. It wasn't an argument; it was a discussion. And it was like, okay, well, what's most important? Like knowing your numbers and the criteria of your buys, or lead generating. And if you think about it, guys, like I can literally, any of you can go get 100 leads within 20 minutes by randomly calling a realtor and saying, hey, set me up for a search on the MLS, and you can get 100 leads at a search that takes them 5 minutes to get you. If you don't have what the best criteria is for your business and are crystal clear on what that is, those 100 leads really don't mean anything. Like, you have no way to filter. So in my mind, it's defining what is the best buy, the best criteria for yourself first, and then getting those most amount of leads that you possibly can, so then you can filter in and get those buys on that criteria. So when he says kind of buy the best, the thing about it is like Dodge is crystal clear on what the best means for him. So like your let's talk about this really quick. So your Burr properties, your rentals, what's the exact criteria that you guys have identified for a property that you like for your partner?
So I got to shout out my business partner, Mike Slanigan. He just put together a free course, and I'm not here to pitch you guys on it, but you should check it out. It's really awesome. And our rental metrics calculator Excel sheet is in it, and it's freelandlordcourse.com. So go there, check it out. But I will explain it as well. So we look for 20,000 in equity. We look for properties that we can burr our way out of and be in them for 0. We've done about 50 over the last, I don't know, 14, 15 months, give or take. And our average amount of money left in those deals is $1,200. And the only reason that it's positive and not negative, which would mean we'd actually have none of our own money in it, is because in the beginning we weren't that good at it, and we've gotten better and better as we go, right? So we started leaving in the beginning, 4, 6, 8, 10 in the deal, and then we've kind of got ourselves down to 0. And recently, we've even done deals where we've been able to pay back our lender for both purchase and rehab, and walk with 2, 3, 4 grand after the refi. I forgot what the question was. What was the question?
So no, you actually answered the first two components of it. So you're looking for 20K.
The metrics. Yeah. So we want 20 grand. We want, we want 20 grand worth of equity. We want to have at least 250 in cash flow. Now that's not necessarily per unit. That's just, that's for a single family. It gets a little bit more complicated when it's multi, but for a single family, we want 250 in cash flow.
Okay, and then location, like, are you crystal clear on location? Like, where do you go location wise?
Nope, doesn't matter about the location. We do not buy over 1%. We really shoot for more like 1.2 to 1.3%, and that's more of a return on investment type of thing, guys. The 1% rule, if you aren't familiar, you want your monthly income on the property, gross income, to be 1% of the purchase price plus the repair, or 1% of your all-in cost. So if you buy a property for 80, you put 20 in it, you're really into it for 100K. You want that property to rent for at least $1,000. That's 1%. So we do not buy anything that we rent that is over the 1% rule. Some of our properties are even closer to the 2% rule. Essentially, that's a property that you're all in for 40 grand and it rents for 800. Again, our average is 1.2 to 1.3, 1.35, somewhere in that range. North County, South City, anywhere that works. That does not work in Clayton. That does not work in Kirkwood, typically. It does not work in Chesterfield, typically. Not always, typically. So, of course, we're going to have a lot of rental properties in Florissant, Hazelwood, Ferguson, as well as not so much Dutchtown, but like, South City, where you can get properties at a steep discount, add value to them, and refi out. So 250 minimum cash flow, 20 grand minimum equity. And then we like to leave, less than, let's say, 2 grand in the deal. So the spreadsheet that we have, I don't know if it's actually not an Excel, it's a Google Drive or Google Sheets. But the way Mike has it set up is when you go to view it, you can copy it into your own drive, and then boom, you have your own copy of it. It's really, really cool. But one of my favorite things about it is there's only 4 things that you can really input. There's like 3 different types of, it's all color coordinated, right? So the first boxes are and there's a legend, but they're empty, and you fill in your numbers. The next couple boxes are kind of a light gray, and you can tweak those, but typically once you get those set, and that's just criteria that your lender is going to give you. Is it a 20-year loan? What's the interest rate? So on and so forth. What's the percentage of loan to value that you're going to get? So you can adjust those if needed, but typically once you put them in, they're fixed. And I think they're defaulted to what we use. And then the last but not least is your output. And Mike has this really, really great system of color coordinating shit. So it's like if it's green, yellow, or red. So I put in my numbers. I don't even read the output. Is it all green? Boom. So basically the way he has it set up is it's above my head, but if it's at or above our minimums, it's green. If it's not and it's close, it's yellow or orange. And if it doesn't have 20 grand in equity, at least 250 a month in cash flow, in a BRRRR strategy that will allow us to cash out for basically less than 2 grand, then those won't be all green. So when we import a property in there and it's all green, we buy it. All right. We remove the emotion from the game. This is a numbers game. We look at the high and the low side of both the comps, right? But if the numbers make sense, we buy it. So the only mistake we could have is that we overestimate our ARV or we underestimate our repairs. That's really it, right? And those happen. We're not perfect, but the more and more times that we do it, the better we get. And again, that's kind of why we're getting better at this. As I mentioned earlier, we use the BRRRR strategy. We've done about 50 of them, give or take, and our average is about 1,200. So the next 50, hopefully the average will be negative 1,200, and we'll be at $0 in 100 houses, right? And we'll essentially have, zeroed out the average of what we've left in these. That's kind of the goal.
Okay, so we have just a few more minutes left, and if you all have questions for Dave, I think I have one more topic that I really want to hammer on with him while we have him. I don't, Dave, if you have to run at 11, you have to
No,
run.
no, I'm good. I got all kinds of time.
If some of these members that are on the call, if you guys have some questions, maybe we can go a little bit over the normal 11 on.
Yeah, I got all kinds of time.
So if you guys have any questions, to start thinking of questions, we'll do it. But one final thing that I'd like to get with you, okay? So now you're at the appointment and you're negotiating the deal. What is just a quick high level view of your sales process when you're negotiating appointments with the homeowner?
Yeah. So guys, I'm not a sales guru. I haven't bought a bunch of sales courses. I'm not a high level of intensity type of a salesperson. My kind of approach is I can offer you convenience if you're willing to kind of part with some of the equity there, right? Like if you can give me a discount, and if you are, great, let's do it. Let's try to work this out. Otherwise, like, I don't know if I can really help you, right? So like, I don't really have a bunch of negotiating tactics up my sleeve. I do love using silence. I'll make an offer. I don't have a problem with, awkward silence. I think that helps a lot, but we're kind of firm with our offers. If somebody says, okay, well, we're going to shop it, go for it. If you can find a better offer, listen, yeah, it's going to be less money that my business is going to generate, but I truly want the best for these individuals out there, right? So if you can get somebody that's going to pay you more, please go find that person. I'm not going to help you find them, but if you do, great. Otherwise, here's kind of where my offer's at. When I say that we're really firm with our offers, meaning that, we will negotiate up. Like whenever we determine our MAOs, we don't offer MAO. We always offer a little less, but we're not really willing to come up all that much. So basically, whenever, me and my team internally say, hey, meet them in the middle, that means this. I got to look and make sure I'm in the right camera. Here's where my offer's at. Here's where they want me to be, right? When we meet them in the middle, I'm going to come up about 10%, maybe 15, and they're going to come down 85. That's meeting in the middle, in my opinion. All right. So yeah, nobody wants to negotiate with somebody that's like ultra firm. So we do pad in some negotiation numbers, but typically not a lot. And we justify our offers with a credibility packet. So we'll send them a proof of funds. We will send them information about the title company. We'll send them either a purchase and sale contract or an option agreement. We'll have our closing coordinator reach out to them, even if they hadn't signed, just to let them know, hey, this business is serious. I need to either, make up my mind or let them know that I'm not going to sign, and so on and so forth. So there's definitely no high pressure sales tactics. There's definitely,
Are you doing the offers in person?
No secrets. It doesn't matter. In person, over the phone. Again, we're very transparent. So we'll also come in and we'll just say, listen, here's what we think it's worth, fixed up, but it's not fixed up. So, in order for us to, let's just use some simple math, guys. ARV is 100K. It needs 20 grand worth of repairs, right? They're going to say, well, I should give it to you for 75, right? You put in 20 and you make yourself 5 grand. It's like, no, I'm going to lose 5 because I have agent commissions, holding costs, closings, taxes, all these things. It needs to be lower than that. And it's only worth 100 after I put that 20 in. So it's not worth 80. It's not worth 75. It's barely worth 70. I'd be really more comfortable at 60 to 65 grand. Again, it's not going to be worth 100, that ARV, until you do a new kitchen, new roof, and floors, period. Right? So we're overly transparent about how we come up with our math. And then a lot of times whenever we're doing our MAO formula over the phone or in person, they say, well, 70%, you're multiplying my property by 70%. That's 30% profit. Wrong. That's 12 to 15% profit. The other 15% helps pad closing costs, commissions with agents. Seller concessions is huge, right? At the last minute, when you go to sell it, you're going to have to do repairs. So that's a cost. Private lender interest or interest in general. I mean, all these things add up, and they typically add up to about 15% of what you bought it for, or of the ARV's amount. So whenever we say, hey, sometimes I won't multiply a property by 70%. Instead, I'll do it twice. I'll say, all right, 15% for holding cost and 15% for profit, because it helps them understand, hey, I'm not trying to make 30%, but I am trying to make 15. Again, we talked about this earlier, Jim. I'm in business, and the definition of business is the act of making money. And what I do is I offer convenience for a discount. So if you don't want to offer me the discount, no problem. We'll call you back in 2 weeks or in 2 months, right? But if I'm going to come out of, my shell and offer this massive amount of convenience to you, then you have to give me a discount. That's just the way it works.
Yeah. So, and then it's really just building rapport and trust. And so when, like if I was a homeowner, I was just, as he was talking, I was thinking to myself, okay, if I'm a homeowner listening to Dave talk, I would trust this guy 100% because of how, he's just being completely transparent and honest. He's not like trying to like hide.
No, and I tell people, hey, I'm not buying this house to move in it. I'm going to buy it to do one of three things. One, I'm going to fix it up and rent it and put a nice family in there. I always say that because it sounds so nice. Two, I'm going to fix it up and I'm going to sell it retail to a nice family. Again, it sounds nice. Or three, I'm going to flip it for a couple $1,000 profit. But at the end of the day, why does any of that matter to you? You just want to sell it. And guess what? I want to buy it, right? So I tell them on the exit or my exit before I even typically offer a number. I say, this is what my plans are. If you want to fix it up and flip it, great. Let me know how I can give you pointers. But typically they don't have money to do it or they don't want to do it. That's why they're calling us, right?
No.
So I just take the transparency approach. Like, I just love that approach. It eliminates people getting mad whenever we are wholesaling and a buyer falls out, because I'll tell them, hey, I bought 90-ish houses last year. There's no possible way that one human, unless they won the lottery or they're just a genius, could do this on their own. We have a lot of partners, and most of those partners are, equity partners or private lending partners. And if they back out for whatever reason, it's not me that backed out, it's my partner. So let me have some more time to go find a new partner, right? If you explain that to them in the beginning, when that does happen, and it doesn't happen often, maybe 1 in 20, 1 in 30, it eliminates an argument or them backing out of your agreement at the last minute, right? So I just had a coaching call with one of my students this morning, and he said, Dave, do you try to collect non-refundable earnest money on the B2C agreements, like on your assignments or on your double close sale agreements for wholesaling? And I said, absolutely, but it doesn't have to be a ton. I'm not asking for $2,500. Typically I want $500 to $1,000 unless the person's reputable, like anybody on this call here. But if I don't know them or they're a new buyer, I want to see that $500 to $1,000 non-refundable, not because that's money going to me. But what happens is when they back out and that money's non-refundable, I take it and I give it to the seller. Hey, I told you from the get-go that I had partners. One of them kind of just screwed me. They screwed us. But guess what? I got $500 or $1,000 out of them. It's not mine. It's yours. It's going to go help pay the mortgage for another month. I need some more time. And whenever you go in with the transparency, people want to work with you. They are appreciative that you are shooting them straight. Like, I don't like to bullshit people. I want to shoot them straight, and I just say, listen, this happens from time to time. I'm not going away. I'm going to go find a new partner. I got hundreds of them, right? But in this scenario right now, this might suck because I need another week or two. But guess what? I'm going to help cover some expenses. So the non-refundable earnest money isn't money that I keep. It's basically money that secures my relationship with a seller, right? And you probably haven't heard people talk about it like this, but it's a very, very good strategy to use when wholesaling because it eliminates deals from dying. I hate when deals die. I hate it because we spent so much time, money, effort, communication, you name it, getting to the finish line. So if you get there, do everything in your power to cross it. Don't just give up.
Well, that's fascinating. So you're taking the earnest money so that the end buyer, the cash buyer that backed out on you, you're taking that and you're giving it over to the home.
I've never kept it, ever. It's not my security. It's security to close that deal. So again, put yourself in the shoes of a seller. I have your property under contract. We're going to close next Tuesday. Friday night, my buyer calls me and says, hey, something hit the fan. Maybe bullshit. Maybe it's for real. Whatever. Okay, well, I got to call that seller now and say, we're not closing Tuesday. Well, that's a shitty phone call to make unless you got some money to give them. Hey, this isn't going towards the purchase price. This is because my partner screwed up, but he vested money in the deal. So guess what? I'm going to give it to you. Sorry, can I get another 2 weeks? Well, shit, you're going to give me $500? It doesn't come off the sale price? Hell yeah. I don't lose deals because I pad that in from the beginning, right? So, I mean, you guys should take that advice. It's wonderful. Hopefully you won't need it, but you know, Jim, what is it? 1 in 20, 1 in 30 deals. I mean, shit happens. They fall apart. You know, and it just helps pad it, right? It just helps the retention.
So is there anything else on the B2C that we haven't, I mean, we really talked more about, so it's interesting, our focus, guys, our focus really on the lead generation and getting the houses under contract. Because like on wholesaling, that's really the name of the game. The B2C is actually easier, because if you have a good deal, getting the end buyer is.
You don't even need a buyer's list if you have a good deal. You got this little thing in your pocket called a cell phone that's millions and millions of dollars worth of technology that connects you to this little thing called Facebook. And on there's groups and there's a marketplace. And you can sell all of your deals there if, keyword, they are good and you bought them at a discount. Having a buyer's list is awesome. You don't need it.
Yeah, so is there anything else on the B2C that we haven't gone over that you do?
Not really. You know, I mean, we stay in contact with them. We do have a closing coordinator that, you know, touches base with them right whenever we get a contract signed, and then maybe a couple days prior to closing, and then on closing. And we make it easy, man. We provide a level of convenience. If they can't move, but they need money to move, you know, we'll front it to them and take it off at closing. We'll rent houses back to people. We will buy houses filled with trash. We just did one in South City that had 6 dumpsters that came out of it. We found a bunch of random shit in there. We found some treasure. We found some cash and some coins and some valuable stuff in there, which was kind of fun. Do that from time to time. But yeah, I mean, really, it's you know, when would you like to close? Oh, you need 2 months? No problem. Like we in order for me to justify buying a property at a discount, I feel that there is a need for me to offer them a high level of convenience. And that level of convenience could be different. Again, we talked about the best, you know, right? Being best for you. Well, same for them. That convenience is, what do they need? Is it that they need to close quick? Maybe they don't need to close quick. Maybe they have 3 months and they close anytime. But their level of convenience is that they don't want to go there because a loved one died there, or they inherited it, or they live out of state, or whatever it is. It's always going to be something different, but just provide convenience to what they need, and you're going to create a win-win scenario almost every time.
Well, I really appreciate your time on this. Let's open it up for kind of like a live Q&A.
Thanks for having me. Yeah, absolutely. Anybody has any questions, I'm here. I'm an open book, guys.
The 3 pillars to wholesaling real estate are so incredibly simple. Number 1, guys, number 1, marketing to motivated sellers. Number 2 is making offers. And number 3 is following up with your leads. And that's it. Those are the 3 pillars to wholesaling real estate. If you consistently do those 3 things, I can guarantee you that you will do deals. Incredibly simple, okay? 3 things that matter: finding motivated sellers, making offers, and following up. Let's go do some wholesale deals.
Welcome back to the Discount Property Investor Podcast. Our mission is to share what we have learned from our experience and the experience of others to help you make more money investing like a pro. We want to teach you how to create wealth by investing in real estate the Discount Property Investor way. To jumpstart your real estate investing career, visit freewholesalecourse.com, the most complete free course on wholesaling real estate ever. Thanks for tuning in.
All right, guys, welcome back to the Discount Property Investor Podcast. I am your host, David Dodge, today joined by my co-host, Mike Slane. Hey, Mike.
Hey, Dave, how are you, man?
Man, it has been a while since you have been on the show.
Well, I've been busy, man.
You're a busy bee, man. Always out in the field buying us rental properties and working on those rehab projects.
Flipping them, all that crap, Somebody's got to pay the bills around here.
Somebody's got to do it, buddy. Well, I'm glad to have you back on the show today, Mike.
Well, and then you also know I was in here playing with our new studio. So if you guys are watching us, we've got a nice little studio we're trying to finish setting up here. Hopefully you notice a little improved sound quality. We're using our good mics, and we're going to keep this setup going for you. So
That's right.
Yeah,
That's
so
right.
I'm excited to be back today, though, Dave. I want to talk about a deal that I've been chasing literally my whole career and finally got it. So here in St. Louis, I would say it's the exception, not the rule. It was what we call the six-figure deal. Dave?
This was a $100,000 wholesale deal. $100,000 on a single deal.
That is a lot of money. That is a ton of money. Like more money than I used to make in my corporate gig. I was making, I think it was $78,000 or $80,000 a year. All year, I worked 40 to 60 hours a week for a company, made good money. Don't get me wrong, but was making like $80,000 a year.
That's right.
This was $100,000 on a wholesale deal. Unbelievable. Game changer. So let's talk a little bit about this deal, Dave. I think that's kind of the moral of the story today. Let's just talk about this deal because it's so exciting and it's so much fun to check off one of your goals, to hit something like that. And in St. Louis, again, I think it's a really big deal. I know some of you guys in California, there's much bigger profit margins, so there can be. So these aren't as rare, but again, I think they're pretty rare here in St. Louis, and I was really excited that we were able to get one done together.
Absolutely, Mike. Absolutely.
Yeah, let's talk about this one.
So this was a deal that we got actually driving for dollars, and we use an app called Deal Machine, and it's an app that you can use on your iPhone or your Android device, and this app allows us to locate properties while we are out and about driving around, and we do this all the time. It's called Driving for Dollars. And this app will allow us to locate the property owner and then skip trace them so we can then call or text them, or we can even send direct mail directly from the app. Now, if you guys want to check this out for yourself, Mike and I highly encourage you do. Use code DPI for Discount Property Investor. Again, that is code DPI. And if you use that code, you will get $40 worth of free skip tracing credits. So again, that code is DPI for Discount Property Investor.
Awesome.
And you get a 14-day free trial with the app, no matter what. But when you use our code, you're going to get $40 worth of free credit to skip trace and or test out sending some direct mail. So we use the Deal Machine app to locate this deal. We were driving around this neighborhood, and this was a neighborhood that had some properties that
They looked rough.
They looked rough, exactly. And that's why we located this property on the app, and we said, okay, this is a target for us, okay? The property, whenever we originally drove by it, looked vacant. You could see through the windows, and it was all studs. They had gutted this property, and the front yard hadn't been cut in months. It was all overgrown. The bushes looked like hell. I mean, the place just looked like it needed some love. It looked vacant.
Yeah, so this is, and let's, I'm going to kind of go back to that whole driving for dollars thing. If you guys are kind of new to wholesaling, let's talk about driving for dollars. So what is that? We're basically driving around looking for properties that, like Dave just said, need some love. We're looking for houses that need work or that look abandoned. Like, that's what we want to find. Those are gold for us.
Right.
And this one, again, 100K deal. That's gold. That is gold for us.
So we found exactly what we were looking for. And by using the app, it's great because you don't have to worry about trying to write an address down while you're driving, right? Because we're locating several properties in the area, and sometimes there might be 3, 4,
Three in a
5 in a
row.
row.
Exactly.
Or 10 on a single street. So you can kind of creep down the street in your car, and as you drive by a property, you can drop a pin in the map, and then what happens is it just creates a list. And if you want to use the app to send mail, you can, or you can export your own list and handwrite your own mail and send it that way.
This is such a game changer, though, because this is back when I started, Dave, and you too. I know we both were literally driving around and writing down addresses or taking a picture of it with our phone or
Those
something.
days are gone.
Yeah,
thank God
so much
those
faster.
days are gone. Right.
So again, check out the Deal Machine app. Driving for dollars, super, super helpful. Deal Machine app is going to accelerate that. 10x, 100x. I mean, it's so much better. So use the promo code.
Well, we would have
DPI.
never got this deal if we weren't using the app. That's for sure.
100%.
But again, guys, don't forget, use code DPI whenever you're registering, and you're going to get $40 worth of free skip tracing or mail credit. And that's, again, how we found this deal. So we use the app to find it, and then what do? We skip trace the owner. Okay, we came back to the office, we skip traced the owner, and we found the owner. We called her. It was a female. And once we got her on the phone, we said, hey, we saw that you have this property and the grass is long, and we peeked in the windows, or we could see it from the street, and it looks like it had been gutted out. What is going on? And the property was in a floodplain, right, Mike?
It was, and
it had flooded?
Right, and she was very candid with us. I mean, she told us exactly what was going on. She said, listen, I inherited this house. About a year after that, it flooded out. We don't know what to do with it. It's been a nightmare. I've had to maintain it. We've had, issue after issue, and she just said, I don't know what to do with it. I just want to sell it. Would you guys be interested? And we said, well, sure. So she was nice enough, connected us with her brother, who let us in the property. So we met him out there, and we walked the property, and kind of like Dave said, we saw through the windows it needed everything. We got in, we saw it needed everything. So we said, okay, well, listen, this is in a great area. And, it's got the after repair value is probably about $150,000 to $160,000 house at least. But it needs everything. So we said, okay, well, let's be fair. We'll offer you, I think we said $15,000 was our initial offer. So
I think it was. I think it was $15K.
So we wrote up a contract for $15K, right?
Mm-hmm.
And she was happy. She said, this is great. I'm going to be done with the house. And we said, okay, well, this is $15K, but this is kind of a unique one. We're going to need to bring in some contractors.
Yeah, it's going to be contingent on our inspections.
Exactly. We're going to need to do some inspections on this house. So that's exactly what we did. And when we did our inspections, what did we find out, Dave? We found out something pretty important about this one.
Didn't they tell us that we had to put the property on stilts if we wanted to get an occupancy inspection that would pass?
Yeah. So since this had been flooded out,
crazy.
This was in an area that I guess became part of a floodplain. Like after she bought it, or I don't know all the details, but it was now considered a floodplain. It was right by the river. Not right by the river, but pretty far from the river, but close enough to where it does flood.
It was still in the plain.
It was in a floodplain.
Right.
So the city says, in order to rebuild this house, you're going to have to stilt it. Well, this is a house in St. Louis. Almost all of our houses, or most of our houses, have basements. So you're digging down, and they're saying this one needs to be 15 feet off the ground. So we're talking about basically it's a demo of the house completely and rebuild almost from scratch. So nothing was savable, which was, again, way bigger project than we wanted to take on. We like light cosmetic flips. We can do the big flips, but man, this is a big one. Most of your end buyers as a wholesaler, most of your end buyers aren't even really interested in that sort of project. Not in this area anyways, where you're looking at a $150K house. Now, had this been a $600, $800 million subdivision, totally different story. But that floodplain changes a lot. So we were not able to do that. And we went back to the seller and we said, listen, we can't do this. And I think this is really when I got a little bit more involved. Me and Dave were on the phone with her together. And we said, we can't do it. We're sorry. Because of this, we can't even rebuild the house. And she said, well, that's a really bummer. And we said to her, well, we know you really just want to be done with it. I mean, we'll give you $1,000 for it, and we'll take over it and we'll figure it out. We'll figure out what's going on from there. And she said, well, there was a buyout on this a year or so ago, and there might be another one coming up. And she said, but I'm just
And
tired.
she told us about
She did.
this.
She was
which
very
is the craziest thing.
So this is really interesting. So she said there might be another buyout.
And it's through the city of Arnold.
Through the city. The city wants to buy it. So
However, it was like FEMA, though, right? It was like a joint thing or something?
I'm not exactly sure. So that they get their money from the government. Again, they have to apply for the grant.
Right.
Then they give the money to the city. Then the city buys it and is able to turn it into a park.
Right.
So she told us about this, and she said, I just want to be done with it. And we said, all right, well, we'll go ahead and we'll buy it from you. So we bought the property.
But not for $15,000.
For $1,000. So we took it to closing, and we assumed responsibility for it. And that was huge for her. I mean, she was thankful.
Now, how long did this process take, Mike?
From the time we initially spoke with her, I think it was about 6 months.
Okay.
When we were following up, doing our due diligence.
Before we were able to essentially get it to the closing table.
Correct.
So we originally came in at 15. I think she maybe wanted more than that. And then so then eventually we got her to agree to 15. But then when we found out that rehabbing this house wasn't even a possibility, guys, we had to tear it down and rebuild it on stilts if we wanted to put a house where it was at. And when we found that out, that's when we said, okay, we'll help you get this off of your back, but we're not paying 15 grand for it. We'll give you $1,000. And it took her a couple weeks after we made that offer for her to accept and actually come to the realization that that's all that we were willing to pay her.
Yeah, and we consider that it's basically walkaway money. So I mean, it's kind of a sympathy or empathy offer. It's like, we'll give you $1,000. I mean, we can't do any more than that, just because in our eyes, it truly was a gamble. Is that grant going to come through or not? If it doesn't, then we're responsible. We talked to the city about this ahead of time, and she was aware of it then at this point too. You would be responsible for demoing the house and basically getting it to a safe level lot of land.
Yeah, and that could have cost anywhere between
10
to 15,000. Probably. So that was the risk that we took on this particular deal. Was we knew that there was a city buyout. However, we weren't guaranteed to get to be approved in that program. But on the flip side, we knew that they were going to buy these properties out at a retail rate. So basically the ARV of the property.
Well, we didn't even know that. I mean, think about
it.
it.
We assumed it.
We did.
That's true.
We figured it was going to be for that. So we were thinking, oh man, we could get 150, 180,000, who knows, for the property. So fast forward then. So then what happens next, Dave? We close on the property, and what's our next step? So basically, let's talk about the closing. So it was $1,000 for the property, some closing costs, miscellaneous, maybe $1,000.
Yeah, we were probably all in total for about $2,000 at the closing table.
Correct.
And then we had to maintain the property and we had to board it up. Right when we bought it, it was out of compliance with the city. So we sent over one of our contractors, and he secured the property, screwed the doors shut, he boarded up the windows, he made sure that nobody could get in the property, because we didn't want squatters in there, we didn't want anybody getting hurt on the property or in the property. So we totally secured the property and boarded the property up. From there, it was a waiting game. So we did have additional costs and expenses from that day, from when we closed on it, until we actually got the buyout, which was last week. And those costs were obviously, as I just stated, boarding up the property and securing it. We also had to maintain the landscaping and the lawn care. And we did that for about a year.
Yeah.
And
it felt like 2 summers worth of it. And I think we paid maybe 1 or 2 years in taxes. Now the taxes had been abated because everyone knew it was flooded out and not worth
taxes
much.
weren't bad, but
So
we
it was like
still had to
100,
pay them.
$150.
And then we had insurance.
Yeah.
So we definitely did have some costs, but these costs weren't crazy costs. I think we were probably all into this property for maybe $3 to $4 grand when it was all said and done. Okay. And then Mike gets an email from the city saying that we were approved for the buyout. However, that was about 6 months ago.
Yeah, no, so even that process was a long time, and that was a lot of follow-up, too. And during that time, Dave, you kind of, we skipped over the other stuff, too, that happened. So during that time, the city would randomly drive by and say, well, the grass needs to be cut because it was too long. And
Yeah,
we
we
were cut.
kept
We'd send
getting-
somebody about a month, every month or so, we'd send somebody out, but they would still go out and say, grass is too long. Or a tree fell or a limb fell in the front yard. You need to get that replaced. Or, hey, there's somebody has dumped a bunch of trash on your property. You need to get that picked up. So, I mean, again, there was ongoing maintenance with the property kind of above and beyond. And, I mean, the city recognized it was a problem property. They knew no one was living there. I mean, they knew all this as well. So again, there was a lot of work, not a lot, but I mean, there was some work, some maintenance, and some costs that went into this property.
But again, though, we weren't into it for more than maybe $3,000 or $4,000. Let's call it 4,000 just to round it up.
Sure, 4,000.
When
Say
it's all said and done.
cost.
So that was the purchase, that was the closing costs, that was securing the property, that was lawn care, landscaping, taxes, and insurance, all of that for $4,000.
Now, insurance is really important too. Let's not gloss over that. So, and liability insurance on a property like this. You've got a vacant property. We don't really care if a tree falls on the roof. We don't really care if it burns down. Again, there's nothing of value to us, right? I mean, we're throwing $1,000 at it, which again, I recognize is a decent amount of money, but we didn't care about that. What we cared about is if somebody went over there and fell and got hurt and then sued us. Because again, as the property owner, if we didn't maintain it and somebody was injured, that's a big risk. So again, that's why we wanted to maintain insurance on the property as well. So it's just important, guys. I mean, these are things that that can be really,
do not forget. You know, if you have a property, you need to have insurance on it. You know, absolutely, absolutely.
So we did that, and then we started following up with the city. And this is the process that took a little bit longer. So when we were holding it, the city said, "Hey, we were approved for the buyout." Then they needed a bunch of paperwork from us, needed us to fill out this stuff. And the city goes through their whole checklist.
Oh,
so,
that took a long time. That took 6-8 months, guys.
It did. So the city, they had to first get, I mean, they did a bunch of stuff. They had to get appraisals. And what they called it, the appraiser told me, he said, what we have to do is we have to go in and look at the property, get pictures for the city, because that goes in a standard appraisal. But then they also have to figure out what the property was worth at the time the flood occurred. So that was the number that they came up with, and that's how they came up with their offer, which is really interesting to us because, again, we didn't know. Again, we just figured maybe they're appraising it for the current condition and the value of the land.
Yeah.
Or again,
either
who
way,
knows?
we were in a win-win situation. We thought, because even if they were to appraise the property at 20 or 30 grand in its current condition versus the pre-flood condition, that's still a massive return on an investment of around $4,000. But luckily for us, they appraised it pre-flood, and that came in at $105,000.
105.
$105,000.
Yep. Right around 105 on the nose. So then we got the paperwork from the city. We signed it for sale for 105,000. We I think walked with 104.8, something like that. Minus
the 4,000 that we had in it, and we had done just over $100,000 on the net profit of the wholesale. So our take home, after we had paid ourselves back for the cost that we had spent, was 6 figures, guys. Now, this deal, it took us some time, and that's okay. We had about 6 months from our initial contact. Whenever we drove for dollars and we found the property and we contacted the seller and we made that initial contact, 6 months from that point in time until we actually closed on it, okay? And the reason is because the motivation of the seller when we called her originally wasn't, it wasn't highly motivated. She wanted to sell, but she was still kind of wanting to get more for the property. She at that time didn't know that the property was going to need to be stilted. She didn't know if this buyout was going to take 3, 5, 7 years. She didn't know. And over time, she just lost interest in waiting. She was tired of getting bills and summonses from the city for the lack of upkeep and lawn care, landscaping, so on and so forth. There was tree branches that had fallen, and they were sending her letters like crazy.
Yeah, all sorts of issues.
And it took about 6 months for us to get this property under contract. And then from the time that we had under contract to the time that we closed was roughly a year. I'd say closer to 1.5 years, actually. So from start to finish, this took us 2 years. And this was a really, really good investment that had a return of a crazy percent.
100% or something?
No, more than that, because we only invested 4,000. So we're talking thousands of percent
I don't know. It's a lot.
of return.
25 times what we had invested.
There you go, 25x.
Yeah.
So again, guys, we bought for 4, we sold for 105, and we had a net profit of 101,000. We just got over that 6-figure mark, but we did it. And that is Mike and I's first 6-figure wholesale. We got it from driving for dollars, and we use the app Deal Machine. If you are not using Deal Machine, we highly recommend it. It's safer than driving around writing stuff down. You can have your phone in your hand, and you can just drop a pin in the map on properties that you see as you are driving around. So then you can then later send them a piece of mail or do it right then and there from the app. You can skip trace them, so you can call them or text them, or you can just use the app to build yourself a list and then export that list and then, do whatever you might want to do, handwrite a letter or whatnot back at the office or back at home. Now, again, they give a 14-day free trial. Mike and I don't work for Deal Machine. However, we love the app, and that's why we are promoting it on this episode. So if you guys want to check it out and get a free 14-day trial, go to dealmachine.com or go to the App Store and type in Deal Machine. It's a driving for dollars app. And don't forget to use code DPI. That stands for Discount Property Investor. You guys are discount property investors just like us. We make our money when we buy. We get paid when we sell, so you have to buy at a discount. But use that code DPI when you register for your 14-day free trial, and they will give you a $40 credit, which can be used to test out some direct mail or my personal favorite, skip tracing credits. So as you are driving around, you can skip trace the owner in real time. And I personally like to call them when I'm in the front driveway or in the street in front of their house. There's no better time to call that person than when you are right in front, because if they answer, and you hope they do, you can say, "Hey, I'm an investor. I own some properties in the area or, on the street, and I'm actually in front of your house right now, and I'm interested in buying it. Are you interested in selling it?" So we love this app, and it got us a
100K
figure
guys.
deal.
100K. That is a big payday, guys. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you for checking out the Deal Machine. Don't forget, like David said, use that DPI code. Get yourself a little promo credit and make yourself a 6-figure payday.
That's right. All right, guys, signing off. We'll see you soon. Thanks. Thanks for listening to the Discount Property Investor Podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, please like, share, and subscribe to help us reach a wider audience. To jumpstart your real estate investing career, visit freewholesalecourse.com, the most complete free course on wholesaling real estate ever. We would also appreciate it if you left us a review on iTunes or Stitcher. Thank you in advance for your support. And remember, you make your money when you buy, you get paid when you sell. Now let's go build some wealth.